What happens when you eat modest nourishment? The articulation, modest nourishment, all things considered insinuates sustenance that people intend to consume quickly, either on or off-site. There is a ton of particularly analyzed evidence displaying the diverse negative prosperity effects of eating and reveling modest nourishment, in both the short and long stretch. Numerous reasonable nourishment establishments by and by list the amount of calories all of their things contains. In any case, this is simply a bit of the idea of whether it is engaging or not. Economical nourishment is regularly poor to the extent food. As demonstrated by an assessment paper in the journal Health Promotion Perspectives, reasonable nourishment will, when all is said and done, contain various substances that are generally unhealthful. It is high in sugar, salt, and doused or trans fats, similarly the same number of took care of added substances and fixings. It is in like manner low in worthwhile enhancements. Not all modest nourishment is horrendous, and an individual can choose a good choice by doing investigation to find the energizing substance of explicit cheap nourishment things. These are available on the destinations of most huge restaurants. Nevertheless, even the more remedial modest nourishment things are regularly high in sugar, salt, splashed fats and trans fats. The Office of Disease Prevention and Health Promotion note that the regular individual in the United States uses a great deal of these. Fleeting impact. Since modest nourishment is usually high in sugar, salt, and drenched or trans fats, looking at the transient effects of these enhancements can help make sense of what happens in the passing when an individual eats reasonable nourishment. The delayed consequences of a little report in the journal Nutrition Research and Practice suggest that eating sustenances with more sugar as the essential supper of the day could make an individual feel hungrier at their next dining experience than if they ate a low-sugar dinner. Authorities, dietitians, and other prosperity masters acknowledge this is in light of the fact that sweet sustenances are increasingly horrendous at giving satiety, or a sentiment of consummation. Also, high-sugar sustenances increase the body's enthusiasm for insulin, which in like manner propels all the more longing inside a shorter proportion of time after the blowout. Authorities acknowledge that the more insatiable an individual is before their next supper, the practically certain they are to eat a more noteworthy number of calories than would regularly be fitting. A little report in the Journal of Hypertension found that eating up raised degrees of salt could immediately influence the most ideal working of a person's veins. Excess sodium utilization in like manner has associations with fluid upkeep. Modest nourishment is furthermore normally low in new results of the dirt, which makes it hard for people to show up at their recommended step-by-step affirmation of at any rate 5 servings. It may moreover be hard for them to show up at their ideal fiber confirmation, which is in any occasion 25 grams for every day. Modest nourishment is outstandingly good, inferring that it is promptly isolated in the mouth, doesn't require a great deal of gnawing, and starts the prize places in the cerebrum rapidly. This blend readies the feeling of taste to lean toward these particularly dealt with, significantly energizing sustenances. This reduces someone's hankering for whole, new sustenances. Research from 2018 and diverse past examinations have proposed an association between economical nourishment usage and the event of sustenance obsession for these low supplement things. Long stretch influence. There is a great deal of particularly asked about verification exhibiting that regularly eating modest nourishment can hurt a person's prosperity. This is in light of the fact that most modest nourishment is high in sugar, salt, drenched fat and trans fats, dealt with fixings, and calories, and low in malignant growth avoidance specialists, fiber, and various enhancements. Numerous cheap nourishment dinners are low in fiber. A low-fiber diet is connected with a higher threat of stomach-related conditions, for instance, check and diverticular ailment, similarly as diminishes in sound gut microorganisms. An examination in the journal Health Promotion Perspectives recognizes the periodically miserable effects of eating modest nourishment on a person's prosperity. Such perils fuse heaviness, insulin restriction, type 2 diabetes, and distinctive cardiovascular conditions. An examination in the Nutrition Journal bases on the effects of a Western eating routine on a person's safe system. This is an eating routine that includes high proportions of sugar, salt, and doused fat from only 2 or 3 sources. The examination paper states that a Western eating routine can incite higher aggravation, lower control of tainting, higher harmful development rates, and higher risk of extremely touchy and auto-inflammatory contamination. An assessment in the journal Thorax develops an association between cheap nourishment usage in teenagers and youths and an extension in asthma, rhinoconjunctivitis, and skin aggravation. An assessment in the journal Appetite also recommends that there is a causal association between an eating routine high in drenched fat and essential sugars, customary of much modest nourishment, and a lower limit regarding memory and learning. This sort of diet may in like manner raise the peril of Alzheimer's sickness and Parkinson's disease. The Food and Drug Administration (FDA) suggests that an eating routine high in salt normally assembles a person's circulatory strain, which infers that an individual will undoubtedly have a cardiovascular disappointment, stroke, kidney disease, or coronary sickness. The FDA in like manner note that an eating routine high in trans fats raises the proportion of low-thickness lipoprotein, or horrendous, cholesterol and cuts down the proportion of high-thickness lipoprotein, or incredible, cholesterol. This suggests an individual will undoubtedly make coronary disease. The Obesity Action Coalition point out that regular modest nourishment contains a high number of calories. If an individual eats a more noteworthy number of calories than they are expending during consistently, they will put on weight, which may provoke robustness. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention (CDC), weight extends a person's peril of working up an extent of certified prosperity conditions. Another after-effect of increasingly young people regularly eating reasonable nourishment is their unintentional non-attendance of understanding a basic dinner course of action, getting ready, and stimulating eating. After some time, this spreads a dependence on economical nourishment, and people may not make sense of how to design reviving, balanced sustenance in the home. Eating up such suppers can reinforce a person's drawn-out prosperity all through their future. Summary. Reasonable nourishment will all in all be high in salt, sugar, splashed fats, trans fats, calories, and arranged added substances and fixings. A lot of all-around drove ask about has shown the negative prosperity effects of eating up a ton of these. Not all modest nourishment is horrendous, in any case. Some menu things might be lower in these substances than others, while some reasonable nourishment outlets may focus on giving continuously animating decisions. In any case, this isn't the circumstance for the majority of cheap nourishment outlets, or the vast majority of sustenance things they sell. To shield prosperity, an individual should endeavor to perceive modest nourishment things that contain less salt, fat, sugar, and total starches, and all things considered endeavor to bind the proportion of modest nourishment they eat up.